Good afternoon and welcome to week one, day one of your next MBA course. Now that we're off and going, just want to start doing a weekly video. I'm going to touch on a few things and I might make some subsequent videos with some specific examples, but I know we do have a few students that didn't receive their books, so there's going to be a little bumpy start for them, but we want to make sure that at least we start having the videos out there. Let me first start again by saying you can contact me anytime if you want immediate communication. Please use the Travis K at servicefirstfcu.org email or my cell number 605-553-1476. Both are posted in the syllabus as well. Okay, week one. Just want to kind of touch base, and it's just some readings. The only homework this week by Sunday is the forums. One forum, remember to respond to two people. Initial post of 250 words. So that's really the only homework. And then, of course, start prepping for week two is the first actual paper. Another thing I wanted to put out there right away is I had several emails regarding where's the CREMS mentoring article, and that is found in on the resource tab inside my USF. I did send out an email just kind of explaining that as well, but just wanted to throw that out there again. So just some quick takeaways for our textbook reading, organizational behavior. That's the big textbook. And then, of course, there's the psychology of decision making. But on the text reading on organizational behavior, it's really fascinating to start some really big takeaways that I would focus on that'd be very impactful, especially for your paper, not only for your own self-knowledge and manager's toolbox, if you will, is on page 17. Really has some good insight talking on leaders, the Hawthorne effect, power, diversity. Those things are very, very, and some of you are already in leadership roles just by looking at some of your backgrounds and just knowing and understanding really the impact that a leader has, especially on a culture. And this whole thing is really going to be building up to what type of culture and the interaction of different generational interactions. Which is always interesting, from the older generation to some of your employees that are a little more older like myself, and of course the interaction with the millennials. So that's really the leadership effect. Another thing that always comes into, and it's very fascinating, I haven't always worked in finance. I did work in a food manufacturing plant, and it was interesting. We started talking about the Hawthorne effect, and in that manufacturing plant, they really did go through a very, very similar exercise of the Hawthorne effect, and that is they put in new lights, and they found as they're putting in these new lights, their productivity, employee productivity, their output. And this was a food manufacturing, but their output almost doubled during that entire 3-month period where they're interchanging, putting in LED lights and some modernizing some other things, mostly lighting, and found that their output was almost 3 times that production output. It was fascinating. As soon as everything was done and the lights were there, all of a sudden the production went back down to where it was before the lights were installed. It really is a true Hawthorne effect. And you sit back and reflect, and I remember at the time they were having different discussions and dialogues on this, and I'm not in operations or production operations, but it was interesting listening to this. And the concept really was, it was when other people were there, those other workers were there, the employees were more productive, primarily and most certainly because of all the attention, the supervisors, engineers coming out. So it was really more of their production was driven on more management and construction crew visibility than it was actually on the lighting and the overall efficiency enhancements they made on their production lines. So really, it was really going back to the Hawthorne effect, and it struck me to share that story, and I'll try to share several stories, especially once we get into culture, and on some of the strategic management tools and techniques we deployed here to make hopefully our organization better, thus impacting our members of this credit union and their service, and hopefully following through on our Ritz-Carlton model of service. The power, it's always very interesting and to understand, and it was hard for me when I took over officially as the CEO of this organization. I was only 37 years old, and there were several times that other friends of mine, different business leaders, would always say the power, the impact that you have. Don't underestimate the impact that you have on your employees in the leadership role. And something I never thought of. We really try to be very true in old school discipline of when the bullets are flying and there's we have angry members or customers. I'm the first one standing in line, taking the bullets. And if there's praise and good things, I make sure we step aside and those employees are appraised. But every day we're a small organization. I understand the larger and the more layers you have. We're only 70 employees. But some of the things every day that I've done for the 10 years I've been here is walking through every single day and engaging every employee and wishing them a good morning every single day. It's always interesting because on some of our internal surveys and feedbacks, that's one thing. It wasn't money recognition. It wasn't verbal recognition. It wasn't money. It was this daily communication and having the opportunity to have this open door. I actually took it further in terms of a leadership and started something we call, I did this 8 years ago, 15 Minutes with TK, and that's an opportunity where every employee can sign up to meet with me, tell me what we're doing. It's really a 360 evaluation, if you will. Tell me what I'm doing good, what am I doing wrong, what do you want to see changed. If you don't want to meet one-on-one, you can bring HR, you can bring a friend, a coworker, whatever. But I'd love to gather your feedback. And that's really that leadership and that connection tool, and it's been very, very powerful. And then, of course, acting on any of those suggestions we get. A lot of times it's operational or efficiency. It's maybe expanding a counter or adding a camera, something, a new piece of technology, and we incorporate those immediately, and it saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really another good takeaway from that leadership component. Diversity is one thing that Service First, a lot of you don't know, are crediting, but it's we were formed out of a meatpacking plant, John Morell's, now Smithfield. And we're very proud that our employee population mirrors that of our member population in terms of diversity. And we're very proud to have Spanish-speaking, Muslim employees, Native American, African American, Caucasian. And it's really a true welcoming environment, so everyone, and that was really one of the things that we understood quickly in diversity and really drive a lot of our hiring decisions based on skill sets, needs, and familiarity. Those are really a couple of my takeaways in terms of the organizational text and the reading. And just to let you know, I've never taught this class before. I'm my first time teaching, as I stated earlier, it's strategic planning. So it's awesome for me to really be reading every week and getting involved. And I hope to carry forward and not bore you with my stories, but to share some of those with you. In terms of the psychology of decision making, I love that book. It's been that is just a tool and technique that we all, no one truly masters. It's an ongoing learning and education. But I would really focus on the framing component in Chapter 2. That really, the framing of decisions is fantastic. And I'm trying to put together a couple of interesting speeches that I've used throughout the years, as well as a couple of TED Talks that I'll send out those links, primarily on framing. One of them is a speech given by Russell Means, American Indian Movement activist from Pine Ridge, South Dakota, somewhere I'm very familiar with, and not only knew, but personal works, and it was very interesting. So it's very cool in bringing some of that, and I'll send those out in addition to a couple of really cool TED Talks. And they really exemplify framing and decision making and the power of that. Trying to think on I think those are really As we get into chapter two and those things in culture, I'll share more of those. But that's really about it. Now, tackling assignments again, discussion boards very important. If you do not participate, you do not get the 75 points. I am very liberal when it comes to discussion boards. It doesn't have to be an APA. It can just be a good constructed 250 word statement and then a couple of corresponding interactions. That is totally okay. The papers, however, again, I can't stress enough, I am old school. That's the good thing about being old, is I'm very traditional and have very high expectations on APA. So please, let's make sure we have them constructed correctly. Let's have an abstract. Let's have things cited in a proper manner. And of course, only academically refereed journals. I also, if you weren't aware, I do allow Harvard Business Review as an academically refereed journal. And I don't know in some of your previous classes if some of your other professors allow that or not. Some do, some don't. I happen to love the Harvard Business Review. And I do accept it as a academically refereed book from which to cite text. So that's about it. Week one, day one, welcome so much. Again, let me know if you're having any problems. I'm very accessible, even though I have, like you, life learnings. I also understand and respect that you're all working learners. Things do come up and things do happen. So if you just communicate that with me, I most certainly will work with you to make sure that we get you taken care of and your experience and learning base in this course is satisfactory. That's our goal. I always say this over and over, but I do work for you. You pay a lot of money to achieve this education. You should expect and require a lot out of it in return, not only from the University of Sioux Falls, but also from your professors. So thank you very much. Have a fantastic week one, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care until I talk to you soon.